Yay! We did it.
Yes.
Hello, GitOpsians. Assuming there are some out there, there probably are. A lot of folks are getting ready for KubeCon.
Yes. Next week.
Next week, I will be there. In
Are
fact,
you-
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, in fact, our next episode is the week after. So instead of like continuing on this little templating thing, we'll probably actually just like do a little bit of a KubeCon wrap up because I've got like a bunch of interesting sessions I'm planning on going to. But you know how it is. They always schedule all the sessions you want to go to at the exact same time. I don't know how that is a universal truth. I've never met anybody who has said, oh, I'm going to KubeCon and I can make it to all of the sessions because none of them conflict. Like, it's always, I can make it to half of the sessions I want to go to because they're all at the same time.
Yeah. And they're on different sides of the expo hall. So it's not like you can just jump across the hall and go see one, right? You have to like haul ass to go down to, or haul butt down to the other one and go do your thing.
You have to hot foot it.
You have to hot foot it. Yeah, thank you, because I'm unprofessional as well. So
we are the best, Johnny. I don't know what you're talking about. We are the greatest at professionalism. But yeah, no, true. You really got to work out. Like if you don't break a sweat at KubeCon, I would like to know your secrets.
Yeah. If you got like the little fans built into the shirts, that's what it is.
That's what it is. Probably, yeah. That's it. I have one of those. No, I don't. I gave it to my sister. She stole it.
Yeah.
Oh well, that's how sisters are. Right. So today's episode though is Helm, and for folks who are kind of tuning in for the first time in a while, we're doing a little bit of a mini series all about templates and templating. And so we're starting with Helm because it's the thing we have the greatest familiarity with, and then we'll start working our way towards things we've never used before. We'll figure out those things and learn about them together when we get there. But for right now, Johnny is going to explain Helm to us like we are 5, and I'm glad he's doing that because I literally just finished all of my slides for my KubeCon presentations, and I have no brain power left. So I get to be a professional idiot today, which we know, if you've been a long-time viewer, being a professional idiot is my favorite part of this job.
Yes. I am also a professional village idiot. It's my life goal. And one thing before we move on to like with the, in reference to KubeCon next week, if you're gonna be there, make sure you sign up for OpenShift Commons. Go check that out because like the OpenShift team is doing a lot of work to like do the OpenShift Commons, and like they're trying to do the superhero award. So like if you watched like last year's KubeCon, our Hope 9 was the Red Hat superhero for OpenShift Commons, which I think is pretty awesome. Hillary, we both know him pretty well, like within both of the streams. So it's pretty awesome, and it's cool. So
love our Hope 9.
Yes, he's awesome. But yeah, so if you're gonna be there, go check it out.
Yeah, but also like Red Hat booth will have some OpenShift demos. I think, I don't know. I'm not signed up for booth duty, so I'll be wandering the convention as per usual, taking advantage of the professional learning opportunity. Hopefully eating good food somewhere at some point because feeding me is a pain. If you find me, it's a possibility I will have not your sysadmin pins with me. So I don't think I have one of those handy right now, but longtime viewers would know that I own the domain not your sysadmin, and I used to have a joke t-shirt store up there. It got too expensive to keep maintaining that, and I didn't want to pay city business taxes on a non-real business. Yeah. So I just closed it down. We did pay our city business taxes anyway, but that was all different problem. Anyway, I didn't want to pay city business taxes.
Doge didn't shut your site down?
Doge did not shut my site down. No, I voluntarily took care of that before they were a thing. But anyway, but I do have enamel pins of the saying not your sysadmin. And if you find me and I still have them, you can have one too. So nice. There you go. That's your KubeCon scavenger hunt. Find me, get a pin.
Nice. Yeah, and if they do anything like they did at KubeCon Salt Lake City, they'll have like arcades, which are like little interactive demos going in the booth, which are kind of cool. Like if you're into that, like it's kind of neat. If you're into like clicking and like watching how the stuff works, I can see the value. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, there's going to be some neat stuff there. I'm looking forward to it. You may find me at the booth sometimes because sometimes I sit and watch our own demos. Because when else do I see it?
Yeah. And it's just, to me, I know we're kind of derailing there a little bit, but like the booths to me are like, it's interesting because you hear perspective that you don't always hear. And so like And when you're listening to people tell stories or they're asking questions, and then you're getting that you're listening to them get feedback from people like Gerald and like yourself and others, right? Other experts and stuff like that. You're like, oh man, this is actually kind of cool. Like I would have never even thought that that was a real problem, but it's just neat to hear what people are going through.
Yeah, it's great for me too as an engineer, like, and quote unquote engineering leader. I'm going to put that in quotes because I think I spend most of my time just doing Jira administration. But it's, it's a great opportunity to hear for me more of our user perspective and more of our like business case perspectives than I otherwise get, because of course we have a business unit, they bring us these things, but they do it in a very like orderly fashion. Like they've done the research, they understand, like they've stack ranked, they go through a whole thing of vetting that information before they bring it to us to make sure that we're building the right things. Sometimes it's fun to just hear about all the other stuff or things that have nothing to do with my product whatsoever, and I wouldn't get any exposure to it if not for KubeCon, which is usually what I go to the booth for, is like to learn about whatever the heck else Red Hat is doing that I don't get to see day to day.
Yeah,
it's a big organization. We do a lot.
It's crazy, and like the amount of people that are doing stuff that like are orthogonal to what you're doing, or even like just maybe not quite that direct, but like just it's just awesome. Like holy crap, who's doing that and how are they like? That's amazing that they're doing it.
Yeah, 100%. I love it. It's fun.
Yes, and also I'll be at Summit this year. This is my first time ever
I
going.
will be at Summit too.
This is my first time ever getting to go, so
Same.
I'll be talking, or I'm doing a presentation with one of our partners. So
I am also doing a presentation with one of our partners.
yes, is it the same one?
No,
Are we doing the same presentation? Like,
are we the partners?
Wait a second.
Yeah, no, I gotta look this up. So I'll be presenting at Summit with Andy Gabner from Dynatrace on platform engineering. If that name sounds somewhat familiar, it's because he's been on our stream a few times, and he is one of the 2 co-authors of the book I helped write.
Nice. Yes, mine is going to be with Steve Porter from Deloitte. So I was like, if you would have said starts with a D, I would have laughed my butt off because it was so good.
That's very close. That's very close. Yeah.
Yeah, we're doing HyperShift. So like they've done some stuff with HyperShift and GitOps on their side, and like it's some work that we did together back in the summer. And so yeah, we're gonna do a presentation on it. Yeah, it's gonna be cool as hell.
I love that. I will come to that and I will watch it.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. It'll be cool to see you again.
Great. Yes, absolutely. Okay, so that's pretty good announcements. We did good. Good job, us.
Yeah.
Yes, I think, did we ever talk about OpenShift 4.18 going GA? I know we had like kind of a big gap in streaming. And I don't remember if we remembered to announce that. That happened in like February. We're so late to the party on that.
Yeah, it did. I don't remember. I think maybe we mentioned it, but I don't know if we actually. I don't remember, to be honest.
Yeah. Anyway, this OpenShift 4.18 is a whole thing. Enjoy. Yeah. It's great.
Yeah, it's amazing. And also, since we're doing this now, there's firewall updates to the Quay registry. So make sure that if you are behind a restricted network, or if you're behind a firewall, that you make these updates, because Quay IO is adding, or Key IO, if you're one of those, is adding 3 endpoints to that host name. And so, yeah, if you're behind a firewall, it could cause some issues. And then
thank you for the heads up, because Azure Red Hat OpenShift absolutely is.
Yeah, there you go.
There we go. I will make sure to tell the team and have us keep an eye out for it.
Yeah, and then the other one is like that we've been putting out at least a lot lately, is that the redirection, the DNS redirect for docs.openshift.com.
Mm-hmm.
Went through on March 12th, and so docs.redhat.com is now the official endpoint for all of your documentation needs with OpenShift. So if you go to docs.openshift.com, it's going to redirect you to docs.redhat.com. And if you find any issues, just report a bug. Make sure that you do that, because everybody benefits from you going through the docs and saying, hey, there's something wrong, or this doesn't make sense. So just feel free. That's a good way to contribute. If you're ever looking to how to contribute to an open source project, that's actually a really great gateway to get into it. So
we do love contributions.
Yes,
does it make me, am I going to lose my job if I confess that I absolutely hate the docs.redhat.openshift.com UI in comparison to the docs.openshift.com UI?
It's gotten a lot better. I don't know if you've looked at it recently.
I looked at it literally yesterday. It definitely is improved. It's just still not quite not quite where it was, and this may be one of those familiarity pieces, whatever the opposite of familiarity breeds contempt is. But yeah, I liked the user interface for the OpenShift docs better, but
Yeah.
I know they'll keep improving it. I'm just it's taking me longer to find what I want.
Yes. Yeah, and the rendering is a little slower sometimes. Like I think if you're doing it for the first time, like the render is a little bit I don't know, it's something with caching. But if you look at it like how it was 6 months ago, it was
Yeah.
not my favorite place to go.
Mm.
And yeah, the OpenShift docs, it had like that nice clean Django look to it. You know, like Django's
Mm-hmm.
just I don't know. There's just
Yeah.
something. It was very clean and minimal about it, and it was nice, and I loved it.
Yep. Same.
And hopefully they get a lot of that back. So
As much as I complain, though, I have absolutely no desire to go in and contribute UI fixes. So there you go.
I did create one bug for Surface Mesh just because like the docs, I was like, this doesn't make any sense. Like it says start here, and then you're all over the place. It doesn't make any sense. So I created a bug for it.
Nicely done.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, let's do this. Maybe.
Something. I don't know. I don't have brain
Uh,
cells left.
so I'm gonna do that. I'm trying to do this without getting the infinity loop here.
Just do it. No, I don't think this is not that serious. I don't think anybody cares if there's a brief infinity loop. If they care, I'm sorry. You'll live.
Yeah. All right. Can you see Helm?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Cool. So this is not going to be like a long, drag out like presentation or anything
God,
like
I
that.
love the
So
fact that your slides look like they were done by an engineer. These are what my slides look like.
yeah,
I
this
was concerned you
is
were gonna have pretty slides and make me look bad.
no. That's I will. This is how I create slides, and then I give them to Anthony, and Anthony is like, all right, for the love of God, and he makes them look awesome. And
Oh, can I do that? Can I get Anthony to fix my slides?
he would probably. I'm sure he would probably do it. Yeah.
I might. I have a presentation, internal presentation coming up at the end of April, and I have a feeling Anthony is about to get a slide deck sent to him.
Yeah, I can't I don't have that creative I don't know what you would call it the creative spark
I don't.
to create good charts, and so I just do this and I try, and he fixes them and makes it really nice. So
I love people who have that skill.
yeah, me too. All right, so today we're going to talk about Helm. Helm is a package manager for Kubernetes, and so it's also a templating engine that's built in Go, and it underneath you can also use like the Sprig library from Go, which means that there's a lot of like functionality that you can use with conditions and stuff like that. And then it makes your templating, you can go from a very simple template to a very complex template. And then uh, and today what we're going to talk about is we're just going to go through like the different Helm CLI things. And then I have a chart that we're going to mess with. Like we're going to install one, then we're going to create one, and we're just going to go around and we're just going to mess with a bunch of Helm stuff. The stuff that I think is cool in Helm anyways. So some of the things that we can do with Helm that are pretty cool. Obviously, this is all my opinion, you know, so your mileage may vary. You may hate Helm for everything that's worth, and I get it. But you can create reusable packages or charts that you can use to deploy applications across multiple environments. And coming from the validated patterns team, where we rely very heavily on Helm and we use Helm charts I mean, when I say heavily, I mean like it's a daily occurrence that we're messing with some chart. Uh, it's pretty neat that we can create these things and that we can start reusing them because within our patterns we do reutilize a lot of the same services across some of the different demos that we use. And so being able to take a chart and then just call it from a public repo and bring it in and just update the values that are specific to that one deployment, it makes it super nice to use. Um, so with that said, we can actually with Helm we can put these in a public chart repository. Uh, and I can't remember what it's called. I think it's called like I think it might actually be called a chart repository, but it might be like a chart museum or something like that. I can't remember what the official like nerd name is for it.
Oh, yeah. Let me
Um,
see. Shoot. Now, okay, where's the Helm docs? Because I tip of my tongue.
I think it's like anyways. But we can also publish charts, right? So say if we create one that is really awesome, it's the greatest chart you've ever seen. Like the one that we were talking about before the in our last room, Hillary, was the Argo. Helm chart, which is really awesome, right? It's really well
Yes.
done, well documented throughout the entire chart. You can publish that into a like the Bitnami uh, chart. It's a chart museum, into the Bitnami chart museum, or into like your own personal one, and then have that available through your organization. Like I have a personal one that I use just to kind of test stuff out, and then my team uses one internally, so that way we can share that same Helm chart around. And then with these charts, you can also pass different parameters and values to that chart, and you can either do it via the CLI. You can actually have an external values file. You can have a values file within the chart that you can manage, which would be local. And we'll kind of do a little bit of this today, during some of the demos, but super easy stuff to do. And it's cool because if you've ever done Ansible, Jinja, uh, the double mustaches and stuff like that, like if it just looks similar, so it makes, I think, at least in my mind, it makes it a little bit easier to pick up. And then, excuse me, within Helm itself, we can use resource hooks, and we use those to control how and when a resource is deployed. And so this is kind of cool when you have like, don't think not dependency management as in like I'm depending on a certain like package or whatever to be there, but think of it like I need this database to exist first, or I need some resource, some endpoint needs to be available before I can deploy this thing because of whatever reason that might be. You can use hooks that can like wait for a specific application to complete, and then before it kicks off the other one. Within Helm, you can also do dependencies and stuff like that. There's all kinds of crazy things that you can do with Helm, with like umbrella charts, and then when you start adding in controllers like Argo CD and stuff like that, then it just gets bananas on how far you can go. So just a bunch of cool things that you can do. Some of the drawbacks are that like once you get into really complex templating, it can make DRY or don't repeat yourself kind of complicated. And then the simplicity of the Helm chart starts to go away once you start trying to solve all the world's problems in a single Helm chart. So say you might have an 8 service microservice and you're trying to put all the deployments, or you're trying to use a single deployment template and you're trying to template that out. It can just get really hairy really quick. So just keep in mind when you're doing stuff like that, just try and keep it as simple as possible and reuse things where it makes sense, but then don't be afraid to just use values to override the different components. And if you have to have another chart that's got a deployment, just do that. And then this dry run feature, this is something within our team that we complain about quite a bit, is that like to use the dry run feature of a template, you have to have a cluster, right? So you're probably thinking, well, yeah, duh, that makes sense. But if you're doing something like Ansible, you can do like a check without having to like actually go to a cluster and do
Yeah,
something. You know what I
no,
mean?
I do. I agree with this one. Like I understand the rationale for it needing a cluster, but also it feels like that this does feel like at least there could be a sanity check that is done against it, even if not every aspect of it could work.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I feel you on this one.
Yeah, exactly. And this makes like if you're trying to do lookups, if you don't have a cluster, you can't do a lookup, right? Where that gets really, it starts getting really complicated because now it's like, okay, well, now I've got to spin this environment up, but then it starts taking away some of the automation because it's chicken and egg sometimes. And so it's just a complaint, right? It still does its thing very well, but this some of the things that bother me, this is some of the things. And then like the value precedence or inheritance, right? Like, and Marty, when he was on the stream before, even in the chat, was talking about this. Like if you need to understand like where these values files get applied and how they get applied, and it's not so bad if you're doing like a set from a command line, or if you've just got like one values file that you're using, or maybe a global value or something like that. But once you start stringing together, very specific component charts or value files to that chart, it really gets complicated because you want to make sure that you're not stomping out something that so you're not trying to 3 steps down stomping out something that you intended to do in the very beginning of your flow. And I think even when Christian was on, he did something where, and I meant to look this up and I completely forgot until right this moment, but uh you remember where he updated the chart, but it was, hey, don't change any of the values, right? Just only add what we've changed. Don't go back and reset or anything like that. Um, and then
Yes, that
y-
is. Yeah, I think it's a flag in a run that you can do where it will basically do a merge. And if you don't, I don't know if it merges the exact language, but basically that's, yeah, it's,
that's the
you need to
idea.
set it because it'll overwrite everything unless you say merge this. And then if you do that, then it will only change the specified values to the new version, and it'll leave everything else alone. So
Yeah,
yeah,
super handy.
Yeah, it's a useful feature. You just got to remember that it exists and use it, and that if you don't, it's going to be bad. I don't know if they've changed the default behavior. Actually, I would need to look at the default behavior these days, because, again, I am an avid consumer of Helm, but I am not an author.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you look at our charts are very tactical. It's probably the best way of putting it. Like there's like our cluster group chart is probably the most strategic in the sense of like there's just so much in it that it's because it's creating namespaces, it's creating subscriptions and operator groups. Like it's very robust. But typically when you look at a chart that our team creates, it's very tactical, right? Like I'm trying to deploy ODF. Here's the config. You know what I mean? Like it gets very specific. And then or even like with the different operators, right? It's really config driven. And so yeah, like that it just it comes down to like that's how we do it, right? I mean, it's just, like trying to create a chart that solves all the world's problems is just complex and it gets really complicated. And what we'll do is we'll just say, hey, I've got like say demo one that needs X, Y, and Z resources. We'll create that chart that's very tactical to that. And then if we have another one that comes up, then we start adding, right? So it's a true like DevOps iteration type of workflow. So instead of boiling the ocean, it's trying to do it one bite at a time. And it's been working out pretty well so far.
Yeah, I like that you. Oh, what is it called when you do that? Where you splice idioms? That's what you just did there. Boiling the ocean and eating an elephant.
I have no idea. I'm not smart enough to know that.
Okay, yeah, I don't know what it's called. Anyway, yeah, so it's don't boil the ocean. How do you eat an elephant? And the answer is one bite at a time. Anyway, there's a. Hold on while I Google it. What is it called when you combine idioms? Thank you, Google, for the autocomplete.
I was waiting for it to autocomplete to idiots. Like, oh.
Malaphor is probably the word. I think that's what I was thinking of. Anyway,
I'll be completely honest with you. If you gave me 10 guesses, I would not have come up with that.
Anyway.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, nothing. I got nothing.
Okay, cool. No. So I was gonna say the last thing that I guess to me and really like some of like if I just take some of our complaints within the team, is that like sometimes just to do something small, you end up having to do so much work. It's like if you've ever like done file management or anything like that, like where you're trying to mess with some string in Ansible, how sometimes it's just like, this is so hard to do in Ansible where I could just write a little shell script that'll go out and do this simple thing. To do the same thing at home, we run into that sometimes where like sometimes I just need to make this one little change and I don't want to have this entire chart and there's really just no real nice way of doing it. You know what I mean? And that's where something like a customize is, I think, excellent in that part where I can just go and say, hey, I want to patch this resource, and it makes it really nice to use because then you don't have all this cruff around to do a simple, enable to disable type thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think we've definitely had folks on the stream before. I think it was the University of Michigan, where they came and talked about how they used like Helm, how they use Customize, and like they didn't go all in on one tool and try to use the wrong tool for the job. They use kind of all of the tools in the right ways at the right places in the right times, which sounds overwhelming until you actually, I think, are have finished setting it up and are living it, and then it's a little bit easier because you're not trying to fit that square peg into the round hole.
Yeah, exactly. And I think with the tool like Argo CD, it kind of gives you that front end to be able to use the right tool. I think if you're doing like, if you don't have a GitOps controller like a Flux or an Argo or anything like that, then you're either doing chart management or you're doing customized deployments. You know what I mean? And then I think at that point you're making a decision within the team, like which tool you're going to use instead of doing both. But like having a GitOps controller, like Argo or something like that, gives you that flexibility to where you can have both. And at least in my experience with our team, like that's That's what we do. We'll use customize when it absolutely makes sense, but we do typically we lean hard on Helm. So um so some of the command line options that I use or that I was going to show today, like it's just the Helm repo stuff, and then installing an application, and then just some of the different things that we can do with that. There's also something I found today called Helm Show, which we'll create like a simple README and do some stuff with it because I was like, oh man, that's kind of cool. I didn't even know you could do that. But yeah, we'll walk through all these commands, we'll do some stuff, and then if we get some stuff from the chat that we want to look at, we'll look at that too. Um, some of the resources that I looked at, and this is going back to when I was learning Helm when I first came to our team. I was like, oh man, I don't know what I'm doing, and so I went and I just looked at like there's a Helm tutorial on Red Hat Scholars. The Helm.sh website is actually really great at going through like the different types of charts that you can have, like a library chart. You can have like like a normal application chart. A library chart is more it's like a reference. So think of maybe I create namespaces the same way every time. Maybe I create like certain things or certain resources the exact same way every single time, right? There's no real deviation or very little deviation. That's where you'd use like a library chart. And I'm oversimplifying it. There's much other use cases. There's many other use cases for it besides that, but those are the ones that like I can remember. Um, but yeah, like the Helm.sh site, it has some great examples of walking through and using different values and parameters and stuff like that. This Red Hat Scholars Helm tutorial, I don't know how up to date it is, but like the last time that I used it, it was kind of cool because you're going through adding a Helm repo, adding an application through that repo, and then you're modifying some like local charts that you create. And then I added the search string here for the developers.redhat.com because then that gives you access to some ebooks. But it also has some blogs that were done by Red Hatters on Helm for OpenShift. So one thing to keep in mind if you're using the Bitnami Helm repository or chart repository, a lot of that stuff is written for Kubernetes, and OpenShift is inherently out of the box more secure. And so you're going to run into issues with like security contexts and stuff like that. So just keep in mind if you are pulling charts from Bitnami, you're probably going to have to override some of the security controls, or at least like disable the things that they're doing in their Helm chart, so that way it'll run in OpenShift. And then from books and blogs, if you don't know Andrew Block, then you don't know you're not really serious about learning Helm. Like Andrew Block is like the Helm dude at Red Hat, and this first link here is this is his book, and it's really good. And he does a great job of explaining all the different resources and going through and giving a bunch of examples and stuff like that. And Andy's just he's freaking incredibly smart, and he writes extremely well. And Hillary, I know you know this. We all know Andy. I think if you're a Red Hatter and you don't know Andy, like, are you really at Red Hat? So uh, he's awesome. And then this
Yeah,
guy also, oh, sorry.
I think I was like Andy. I don't know if he's still a Helm maintainer, but he was a Helm maintainer for a while.
I saw something where he was on like the Helm 4. I can't remember what it was, something related to Helm 4. Uh, and it was a couple months ago. So I'm assuming he's still
He's
heavily
definitely still
involved.
active in the community, even if he's not a maintainer anymore. Yeah, no, Andy is it. Like Andy Block is someone to follow. Definitely follow. He's written multiple books, I think, at this point. Like all of them are good. And I've had the privilege of spending quality time with him and having the opportunity to learn from him a little bit in areas where I haven't had as much expertise. And he's very good at teaching.
Yeah. Yeah. He's an alpha nerd without the alpha ego. And he's
Correct.
such a good dude and like a crazy, crazy smart guy. Like it's awesome.
Yeah, he's definitely somebody who I mean we can talk forever about how much we like this guy, and maybe that's a little maybe a little bit much for this stream. He's definitely one of the most real people I've ever met.
Yep. Yep. I agree. And so with that, yeah, the book that he wrote with about Helm was also co-authored by this guy Austin Dewey, who I don't know if he's still at Red Hat, but he used to be. But he's also got a lot of great resources. This website is his blog, and again, when I was learning how to Helm, this is really where I started, and this is how I got myself ready.
Yeah. Have they updated their Helm book? I feel like I remember him talking about they were working on updates, but I don't know. I mean, that was some time ago. I don't know if that actually was a thing.
Yeah, I think so. I feel like that. I feel like I've seen the update, but I'm not 100% sure.
All
So
right. Well, I'll validate that in my side time here while you go do this. You're gonna need to do the plus control plus on this because this is tiny, Johnny.
Okay, maybe. Oh wait. Okay. Is
Oh
that
yeah.
better?
Oh yeah, I can read it now.
Okay, good. All right. Okay, so I have a cluster. It's called Triple G Helm, and if I do a Helm list, I don't have anything installed in this namespace that I'm in. So if I do OC project, I'm in the project default. Now, if I do a Helm repo list, this is going to list all the repositories that I have on my local machine, right? And so I will go ahead and I'm going to blast out this Bitnami so we can re-add it. Bitnami. All right. And so if I wanted to add another repo, so maybe there's a maybe there's a Bitnami chart repository that's the greatest of all time that I want to get something from it, right? I'll just do a Helm repo add and then give it a name and then copy and paste the URL so I don't fat finger it in front of everybody like I always do. All right. And so now I can do like a Helm repo update. Now, if I wanted to refresh all of my chart repositories, I could just run Helm repo update. And if I wanted to do like an individual chart repo, I could just do that individual one. Uh, oh, see, Nami. And it'll just update. What it does is it just goes out and pulls the latest metadata for that chart repository. Now I can do a Helm search, and then I can search a repo and then Bitnami and just see what all they have. Which this is kind of nice if you're trying to find something, right? So maybe I'm trying to find like the latest WordPress or something like that, right? And so it's like, oh, cool, I can go search WordPress or I can go search Bitnami for their WordPress chart, and that could be the one that I deployed. Or if I wanted to, if I look at my Helm repo list again, and I'm like, man, that guy Day Zero Hero, I bet he's got some cool Helm charts. And then let's see what this dude's got. So I'll go out and look at uh, what's out there. This is my repo, by the way. It's lame as hell. There's basically like a couple things I was working on, but this one is what we're going to mess with today is this VP Hello. And so it's like, all right, cool. So I've got this VP Hello chart. Sounds like a really cool Hello World thing. So to install it, I would just do Helm install, and then we give it a name. And so this is the local name. So this is how Helm will see the chart in your local repository. So we'll just call it Triple G Hello, and it's going to come from Day Zero Hero VP Hello. And then I'm going to do namespace Triple G, and then create namespace true. True. Now, before I do that, though, let's see if there's a namespace called Triple G, and there is not. Project like grep. All right, cool. So we don't have one, and I have to make sure I don't use a keyboard shortcut that's going to close out my browser window because I'm using a web SSH client here. All right, so again, I'm gonna use Helm to install a package, a Kubernetes package called Triple G Hello or called VP Hello, but we're gonna call it locally Triple G Hello. We're gonna say we want to deploy it in the Triple G namespace, and we're gonna create the namespace as we're creating this application.
They need to do a new swag run for us. That's just Triple G.
When I was doing this earlier, I was like, I kind of like Triple G.
I like it.
It's got a nice little ring to it. So
All of my stuff locally for this stream is saved as GGG. That's the directory name on my local file system. So
yeah, yeah. I mean that's see, I mean that's this is how I've been doing this forever.
it looks good. What can I say? Like, it's visually
Yeah,
pleasing.
yeah. It's not bad. I know. All
Oh.
right. So then if we look, we've got our Hello World application running. And if I do OC get all minus N Triple G, I've got my pod running, and that's based off of my deployment. It's also got a service, and we've got a route. So if we go and we look at the route, it's just going to be so simple. Like this is, oh my God, it's so cool. This is the best Hello World of all time. Uh, you're welcome. You're welcome. So the cool part though is that if we wanted to, maybe we don't want to use like this chart repo, or maybe we want to like just download it and modify it and do whatever, do something locally with it. We can actually do like a Helm, uh, Helm pool and then VP hello, and then we can actually start looking at the VP hello templates. And each of these templates, right? So like if you were to do if we wanted to mess with that config map and or that deployment, right? We could edit the deployment directly and mess with it, which you shouldn't do. But if we wanted to maybe we don't want to do this in the triple G namespace, maybe we want to create like a dev workspace or dev namespace and then install this chart there and do some stuff, but then have a different, HTML, have some different HTML that gets presented. We can modify the config map and then well, let's just say GitOps. I'm trying to type in targets.
It's not possible. I can talk while you type, but then I don't know what I'm going to say because I'm not awake. I am so not awake, Johnny. You said something that made me laugh, and I looked for the laugh, like react, like I was on a Google Meet or like a Teams Meet where they have those, and I was like, "This is Restream. I don't have reactions. Why am I like? I don't have two brain cells today. Like, I don't know what to tell you. I feel sorry for everybody who has to deal with me later."
Yes, yes. Well, I told you what was going on with me. Like everything's been crazy. So I'm extremely tired. So I'm really running off of fumes here. So like I'm gonna do thing one, thing two, and then we'll do
Cat in the Hat. Come on.
thing three.
No.
Cat in the hat. All right,
Ah.
I'll do cat in the hat. I
You
was
can't
just
do thing one and thing two and not do Cat in the Hat. I'm
I
sorry.
know I panicked. All right. Config map. Now, using the Sprig library, we can actually do like a range, right? So you saw we had that list of items, and so we can do like a range dot values dot cool values, and I'm actually going to move this over, and then I'll explain what these are all doing. Just a second. Okay, so if you've ever done like a for loop, or if you've ever done any kind of loop in any other file system or any other type of operating system, that's range is what this is doing. It's saying range over so for I in values dot cool values, and so we saw thing one, thing two, cat in the hat. The scope is local. That's the scope. So within that scope of values dot cool values, put those. We're going to list them here, and then end is just closing out that loop, right? So the way I look at this or the way I think about this is like this is like the do or for I in whatever do, and then this would be done. And so what we can do is to make sure that we're not buffoons, we can do like a Helm template, and we're just saying, hey, Helm template this local directory, and then for the resource in templates, and then config map, and we can see that it's going to list our content here. And so when you think about like templating and using Helm and stuff like that, you can think of this is very simple. I get it. But like you can start to see how like powerful this can actually start to get, right? So now we can start to update code and where our templates will be just like the abstraction, and then our very specific configs will be in our values files or maybe in some other resource. And we're starting to pull them all in without having to modify the template. So it makes the reusability uh pretty awesome. So if I do an OC new project, Helm install, and then we'll call it triple G demo. And we're going to use the current, they're the local namespace, right? So that's what that period is saying. So, demo. We can see where now it's getting presented. And then we go to our route. That's the wrong one. So I don't even know how to do that. All right, cool. So now we can see where we've got our variables here. All right. So the thing that I was looking at earlier that I was like, oh man, this is kind of cool. So if I create a README, So maybe you have a Helm chart where they actually document it very well, which is a lot of the actual public Helm charts, like especially in Bitnami, they have really good readmes. You can do like a Helm show readme, so readme, and it will actually render the readme from that chart and display it. Now, like if you look back at when we installed the chart, all the stuff that you're seeing here, this is from that notes.txt file. So if we go into templates, and inside this Helm repo, we have a notes.txt and then a helpers underscore template or underscore TPL. These are additional files or additional templates that are in the inside the chart that you can use to present information. So the helpers template is what you can use to actually reduce the amount of configuration you have in your chart or in each of your manifests. So you can create little snippets. Cat helpers. So you can create these snippets here and basically include this bit, and that way you're really only dealing with like one line of configuration versus like whatever this is, like 8 lines here, where you're going through and you're maybe looping over some things. So like when you start getting really complex, then you can start doing things like, or maybe if you have multiple services, you can say, hey, create a template for that little bit of configuration, and then just include that in there. The notes.txt is what you could use to present to your user, like, hey, here's how you use this chart. So like whenever they do a Helm install, they'll get that feedback on the screen that says, hey, you need to, you know, export this, or maybe you need to set up a some password or whatever it is, right? You can give additional information in that notes.txt file to get some usage out of it.
The helper .tpl file, right? Like this is a, helper functions are a thing, right? We
Yeah.
rewrite helper functions in, I mean, shoot, I was working on one in Python the other day, right? Like, they're very common practice, programmatically speaking. So, like, it makes perfect sense to see them in the configuration tool and package management. But it's also just kind of like a neat thing, taking that construct we already have had and then like applying it in a new place is really what I'm saying. It's while we're still looking at like templating, I don't know what they call their templating language, templating markdown essentially. Logically,
Hmm.
it's the same as writing it in a programming language, which is I think why we were discussing this last time, and Marty was like, no, you have all kinds of logic in templates, it's definitely code, right?
Yes.
It's definitely code. And so some of the same like cool ideas and cool paradigms can apply, because that's, I think, I mean, let's be honest, like the star as code is the is the thought process that went into the creation and maintenance of these tools.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's super powerful. And again, like I think if you're starting from scratch, the hardest part is just like, okay, where do I start? And I think if you're just deploying applications, and I don't mean to like downplay that, but if you like, hey, I need Hello World. That's the application that my company needs, whatever it is, right? If there's something that's already out there that exists that you can use, I think having Helm, being able to go out and grab that package and install it, it's just like installing an RPM, right? That has like whatever software that you need, and it's pretty awesome. Going from Helm 2 to Helm 3, Helm 2 back in the day used to have Tiller, which used
Mm-hmm.
it needed like root level access or admin level access, and so people were very very opposed to using Helm, and that's it makes sense, right? So with Helm 3, you don't need that configuration anymore, or you don't need that level of access anymore. So it's just you need the level of access that you would need to deploy an application. So it could be whatever scope, whatever RBAC scope you have.
Yeah.
Um,
It's actually
and
funny because the Helm rewrite going between Helm 2 and Helm 3, there were several things that they refactored and um like re-examined when they went from Helm 2 to Helm 3. But this was actually um well, I didn't do the whole rewrite part, but I actually when I in the book, that was an example I used about technical debt management. Was that migration from Helm 2 to Helm 3 and some of the rationale behind it and what it improved. I didn't go like holistically because there were a ton of changes in between them, but what I actually looked at for that particular example was actually how they refactored the or how they changed the implementation of CRDs and
Yeah.
how that allowed for refactoring of existing Helm charts instead of have everybody having to completely rewrite their Helm charts.
Yeah. Yeah. It,
Um,
it's actually it's pretty cool how they did it. And then because like when I used to work for a government customer and like they flat out banned Helm because of Tiller. And
mhm.
so like it was just a straight up like it was a non-starter. Like you can't even get in the door with Helm because Tiller required excuse me, Tiller required root level access, and they're like, nah, not gonna happen.
Yeah, and I mean, that's why we have like rootless Docker and rootless Podman now too, right?
Yeah,
It's not just
yeah,
why does it really need root? Justify that for me. And a lot of Linux applications and deployments remove the root user. So, you know,
yep,
really, why do you need root when we try to get rid of it actively as a security measure?
yeah. And honestly, like I think Kubernetes 3 years ago, 5 years ago, versus like Kubernetes now, like in the way people are deploying applications now, security is much more part of the conversation now. And so like security context and running as like not running as root, not running as any UID and stuff like that are less common or more. I'm sorry, they're more common now to not run as any UID
Mm-hmm.
versus like 5 years ago where that was probably your very typical deployment, especially in a public domain where you're like, okay, hey, cool, we're just gonna get this application out there. You can run it anywhere. Where OpenShift would shut that down. You know, you can't use any UID or host access or anything like that.
Yeah, yeah. I think not just OpenShift, SE Linux as a whole, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, no, it's. I mean, and to say you can remove the root user from a Linux like from a Linux box and still have processes that run as root. So I don't want to like confuse people on that, but but why? Like
right.
if you've removed the root user, you really like what really needs like why does it really need root? Talk to me.
Yeah,
So that I think we're just seeing, especially I think we're seeing, especially with the cloud native stuff, that's the direction it's going. It's like, all right, why do we really need root? Let's examine that.
yep,
More RBAC, better RBAC, more
yep.
granular RBAC, as everything's moving that direction.
Yep, I agree. I agree. And it's way better now. Um, but yeah, so like if you're trying to figure out like where to start or like, hey, maybe I've got an application that I've homegrown and I've just got a bunch of manifests and stuff like that, and you were like, how do I put this in a Helm template? You know, you can do a Helm create or Helm create and then we'll just call it demo. And what that'll do is that'll scaffold out a demo Helm chart. And so we'll get this chart.yaml file, which is really like the metadata behind a template. If you have dependencies, you would put them under charts. And then any of your templates would go under the templates directory. But let's say if maybe you're installing a CRD, you could actually install create a directory called CRDs and then put the CRD in here, and then Helm will out of the box uh, create those CRDs first, right? Now the caveat to that is, at least in my experience, it's been difficult to template out anything that goes in that CRDs directory. So it would be like you're deploying the CRD, right? Like everything that you want is going to be in that thing, and like you can't template that part. Um, but then your templates inside of the templates directory could take advantage of it. And so if we look at the service account resource, or I'm sorry, out of the scaffolding here, you can see like it just deploys some Kubernetes primitives. So we've got our deployment, our host pod, our horizontal pod, autoscaler, ingress, a service, and a service account, and then again this notes file, which is used to be an information providing document. So like just kind of like chart documentation, and then these helper functions inside the template. And if we look at the service account, this include here is it's actually including the demo.labels function out of the helpers template. So if we look at the helpers again, labels, we can see we're defining this code and we're saying, hey, look, if you've got this, use the chart.app version uh, as a label. Let's use this, oh, sorry. if the chart.app version is defined, then go ahead and put this magic here. The Kubernetes managed by, let's put the release service, and that is all in the chart type panel. I'm jumping around, I'm sorry. So the app version is this. And then we have our application. So if you remember early on, there's two different types. You have a library chart and an application chart. This is obviously an application chart. One of the built-in parameters or vars would be this version and then app version. And then we can see where these labels start to get put in by Helm. So it makes it kind of nice. So that way you can understand like where heritage is coming from. You can understand what version of the application you have deployed in your cluster and stuff like that, looking directly at the resource, right? And so then if you're having problems, it's like, okay, you can start working your way backwards to try and figure out like, okay, I need to update my chart or whatever. And then, but if we look at the service account again, and just imagine now, like we've got this labels. If we didn't have this include, that would be what, 4 or 5 lines of code that we'd have here, and then that would be very specific. So then we'd have to find some way to either loop through those, right? To say, hey, look, here's the ones that we want for this specific application. But when we use the include, we can actually put all of that configuration in that template and then bring it in. And it just makes it look a lot cleaner. Now the service account, it's not a super simple template, but it's a template that it's very customizable and it's very configurable in a way that you don't have to go directly into the template to do something, which makes it really nice for reusability. And just from a like, if you're trying to read this, we're saying if the values.service account.create is true, then let's create this template. If this was false, then it would just ignore this resource. And out of the by default, it's going to read from the values in its local path. I can't type. Oh, so service account create is true. If we set this to false, we can do, and it can't do it because that's set to false, right? It's using the values file. So it's saying, hey, it's set to false. So since it was set to false, it's I can't actually do anything. So I was about to try and do sed live. I'm like, that's a bad idea. Once we set it back to true, now we can see that it's there. Is there anything that you wanted to go further? I'm just trying to give some basic examples there.
No, I think that's good. We don't really have a lot of questions. There was one about if Helm uses Ansible facts, and I think the answer is no. It just has like some similar like visual similarities, but there's nothing under the hood that's actually really in common.
So I will say, if you're trying, not Ansible facts per se, but if you are doing Helm from Ansible, you can pass Ansible variables into Helm that get rendered a certain way. Like it's not quite what it's not a direct, bit for bit, but there is a way that you can inherit my God, the values from Ansible.
That's good to know. I've never played with that, but again, consumer of great Helm charts,
Yeah.
author of no great Helm charts. So I love Helm as a user. I love being able to be like, oh, I need to go stand up an environment that looks like this and run this test. And I like throw the kind cluster up on my computer and I run some Helm charts and I get what I need so that I can like check something out. Right. That is That is my bread and butter. I love Helm for that. Do I actually know how to write Helm? Only in theory.
Well, this is super basic. Like I didn't know how deep to go, and like without getting complex, without having like a good use case, I just don't have the creative fire, I guess is what it
I
is. I
mean,
don't know.
if
So
we want to do a deeper dive into Helm, let's just grab one of the validated patterns and go into it in a future episode. Like,
I
why
agree.
reinvent anything that there's no reason to invent something bespoke for this stream? There are so many good examples that already exist. Like, you can just pick one. And we've
Yes.
looked at validated patterns a couple of times on this stream. So I think, you know, I don't know. I think I feel like that's covered. Like maybe we would just put together like a watch order recommendation on every time we've gone over Helm on the stream, because I feel like we do it once a year.
Yeah. Yeah. And once Helm 4 comes out, then I'm sure that there's gonna be enough drastic changes to where it'll probably warrant at least having somebody from the Helm team come on and hopefully,
100%.
yeah, do some cool stuff.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. That'll be interesting. But yeah, we're basically at time. I actually have a really hard stop today, so we're gonna have to end on time. Thank you to our viewers for coming along on this little journey. If you have any requests or questions, Johnny's email is on the screen. You can always email Johnny. You can email me too. I just don't put it behind my name because I don't want robots to read it and send me more spam than I already get. Johnny is a brave soul. I am not.
It's just a habit from the other one.
I know. I don't even want to think about your spam folder. I really don't want to think about your spam folder. It must be horrible.
It's disgusting. Yes.
Yeah, no, it's bad. So yeah, let Johnny be the brave soul. And if you want to talk to me, Johnny will give you my email. So don't, it's not as like a state secret. That said, we will be back in 2 weeks to do a KubeCon wrap up. I'm hoping to have a couple of interesting talks to sort of summarize for people, hopefully kind of along this exact trend of templates. But if not, it's definitely gonna be about GitOps because there's just so many amazing looking sessions on the schedule. It's I'm not hurting for choice. I'm gonna put it that way.
Yeah.
The other thing is, if you are going to be at KubeCon, a little bit of self-promotion here for me. During the Cube Crawl, Dynatrace is doing a book signing. I actually have my copy of my book here. We'll be giving away and signing the book. All three of us are going to be there. So pick up a copy of this. If not that, there is another book signing on Thursday. I forget the details because I am literally the worst. But yeah, there's 2 opportunities to get free signed copies of the book. I will not have any additional copies with me to hand out. I don't have that much luggage capacity and I can't carry things that heavy. So these will be the best ways to get a copy of the book for free. Otherwise, you could always buy the book. I wouldn't be mad if you did that, but not asking anybody to. Yeah, and hope to see you there. Not you, Johnny. I won't see you till May.
Yes, but I will be there, which is gonna be
We'll
awesome.
be there. We'll see you in Boston. It'll be great. We'll do dinner or something maybe. Until then, I'll remind everyone to choose your technical debt wisely. We'll see you in 2 weeks.